Normally I make videos about small projects that I'm working on or tutorials about things that I feel like I know a lot about. With this video I want to achieve something different. There are tons of good tutorials on YouTube on how you can design PCBs, what you should think of and what to avoid. I have just planned and ordered my first custom PCB for a project and I was surprised how cheap and simple it was. I am in fact a total beginner when it comes to this topic and I probably make tons of mistakes. I never thought of custom PCBs for my projects because I always thought of them as super complex and expensive. With showing you my very unrefined process, I want to take away your fear of PCB planning so you can enjoy the benefits of a mostly wire-free project as well. The total cost for 5 PCBs including shipping was under 10 euros for me and the PCBs arrived within 8 days. The software I'm currently using is called EasyEDA and is free to use either in the browser or as a dedicated application. I'm not saying that this is the best tool for PCB design, but out of the 2 options I have tried, I like this one the most. I would love to hear your suggestions for alternative software in the comments. My favorite feature of EasyEDA is the community library that offers thousands of community created components which can save you a lot of time. As an example, I will be designing a PCB for my smart planter project from my first YouTube video. For this, let's first create a new project in EasyEDA. Now we can import all the necessary components. There are 2 main types of components. SMDs, which stands for Surface Mount Device, are placed on top of the PCB and get attached on soldering pads. The other type are through-hole components, which are mounted on the PCB using pins and mounting holes, like the name suggests. Because I'm just starting out with PCB design, I will only use the latter for now. I will get the ESP32 DevKit V4 from the community library. This model right here is exactly the type I'm using for my project. The DF Player Mini can also easily be found in the community library. This only leaves the moisture sensor, the motion sensor and a way to connect the speaker. For that I will just use some standardized pin headers so we can use jumper wires to connect everything. I chose this approach because due to the nature of the smart planter, they can't just be mounted to the PCB. For the motion sensor, I will create a custom component as an example. Go to New and then Symbol. Here we can create the pin out that will later show up on our wiring diagram. In this case, we just select the pin tool, place 3 pins next to each other and give them the correct name. As you can see, per default there are 2 sets of numbers. The outer one can be used to name the pin, while the inner one should remain numbered, because they are used to connect our symbol to the footprint we will create next. We can also use some shapes to define the look of the component. After we save the symbol, we also need to create a footprint. The footprint is used to define the exact dimensions the component will have on our PCB. Go to New and then to Footprint. The standardized distance between pins is 2.54 mm. To make it easy for ourselves, we can just right-click on the canvas, go to Canvas Properties and select a grid size and snap size of 2.54 mm. Now we select the pad tool from the toolbox and just place 3 pads next to each other. If you zoom in, you can see that there are small numbers on the pads. These numbers correspond to the numbers on the symbol we just created. To make the assembly easier later, I will also add some text which I put on the silk layer so I know what connection goes where. The silk layer is what you call the print on the surface of any PCB. Now we can connect our footprint to the symbol we made earlier. Go back to the symbol, click on the footprint field in the left sidebar and select the footprint you just created. At the top you can see how the pins in the symbol are connected to the pins in the footprint. Now click on Update Footprint and that's it. Now we can finally finish our wiring diagram from earlier. I place the remaining components before selecting the wire tool to connect everything together. Make sure the wires are actually connected and don't just look connected. While placing the wires, a little black dot should appear when you hover over the pin. You can also check if everything is done correctly by moving the component around a little bit after you've finished wiring it. If yes, the wires should move accordingly. It's also helpful to mark all ground wires with the ground symbol so the system can identify it correctly. Now that the wiring diagram is complete, we can convert it to an actual PCB schematic. Go to Design and then to Convert Schematic to PCB. If this warning about unfinished nets shows up, you might want to check your diagram again. In this case, however, it pops up because we are not utilizing every pin of the ESP32, so we can just ignore it. For this PCB, I chose a round outline with a radius of 30 mm to match the plant pot. Now we can arrange the components the way we want them to be placed on our PCB. To rotate a component, you can just use the spacebar. Components can be placed both on the top layer as well as on the bottom layer. You can adjust this by clicking on the component and selecting your desired layer on the right. In this case, I will just leave everything on the top, because there are no real space constraints anyways. For more complex circuits, it can be beneficial to introduce a ground layer to reduce electrical noise. Just select the copper area tool, then the ground net, and build your shape around the components. This just fills the marked area completely with copper and only leaves space for other paths to go through. Once you are happy with how everything looks, go to Route and then Auto Route. This will calculate the best connections between your components. And that's pretty much it. Now you can go to Generate Gerber, where you will get a preview of your PCB. Click on the Generate Gerber button and save the file at a location of your choice. Now you can upload this zip file to any supplier you choose. The settings can usually be kept as they are, and you are ready to order your custom PCB. I hope this video was helpful to you and you feel ready to start designing your own PCB. As I said, I'm far from being an expert on the topic, so if you have any suggestions or tips, please let me know. You can also join the Discord community server that I just started and chat with me there. The link to that is in the video description below. See you in the next one.